Unlike a lot of YouTube pages, the trolls serve a very important function here. The trolls are a constant reminder of everybody who ignores, denies, condones, excuses, encourages black mob violence, black on white crime, black criminality, and how reporters and editors and lots of people are in denial, deceit, and delusion about it. So I don't mind keeping the trolls around as long as they keep their language family friendly, and for probably 80% of their comments, they can't even meet that criteria. So a lot of them end up in my spam filter. Some sneak through though. But I've noticed lately in the trolls' comments, they've kind of taken a different, darker turn. The trolls, their favorite comment used to be, "This is not happening." Then in the same breath, "Here is why what I said is not happening is happening. It's not happening. Here's why it's happening." But lately I've noticed they've taken a third turn, which is white people deserve it because of all the bad things that you guys have done to black people.
Yeah. Because to me, he ain't do no wrong. Just shot a cop.
Still, and there's a whole generation, I say this, I said this, for apartheid South Africa. I said this for my own, community in the South. There are still generations of people, older people, who were born and bred and marinated in it, in that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die.
There's a story yesterday in Baltimore that I'll have out later today. And it's a story of a young white woman who thought she and her brother thought they were living in a safe part of Baltimore, which of course is not safe. I've documented tons of violence at Fells Point where they live. She was attacked by a bunch of black people. They dragged her by the hair across the street, leaving all kinds of burns on her body. Then they banged her head on the sidewalk, fracturing her skull. And in some of the readers' comments to these stories, I noticed several people said, well, white people have been dragging black women around for a long time and nobody said anything about it then. I want you to keep those comments in mind as you hear these two stories. We have some video on this, but let's look at the original reporting on the story. A black man in South Carolina had been doing some yard work for an 82-year-old white woman. He knocked on her door, said he had to use the telephone to call somebody about one of his sick relatives. Next thing you know, she's being beaten, robbed, sexually assaulted. He forced her to write a check to him. He stole her car, the whole thing. So he got caught, then he was tried and recently convicted. But after he was convicted, a local TV station, to their credit, went to one of his other victims from a couple of years ago, Roger Lamb. Roger Lamb said, "Oh yeah, this happened to me. I went to court. The jury found him not guilty." Let's take a look at that video.
Edward Chandler faces 60 years in prison for robbing and raping an 82-year-old Johnston woman. Just a few years ago, he was in court for a similar incident, but was found not guilty. Brooks Honor sat down with the man that first accused Chandler back in 2012. He says if a jury did their job the first time, this would never have happened.
My life is a lot better today than it was this time last week.
But when Roger Lamb woke up this morning,
I feel like 100-pound weight's been lifted off my shoulders.
The feeling came from hearing a jury sentence Edward Chandler to 60 years in prison after he robbed and raped an 84-year-old woman.
I still cry when I think about what he did to that poor lady, though. That did not have to be.
The case hit Roger hard. Chandler is the same man he says robbed and assaulted him. He knew Chandler because he was his yard man, but the jury found Chandler not guilty.
The criminal who had assaulted me and was on trial at this time had reportedly told people around town that he talked his way out of the first trial, which was one I was involved in, and that he would talk his way out of this one, and I was very apprehensive that he would do that.
This crime unfolded in an all too familiar way. A knock on the door, Chandler reportedly asking to use both of the victims' phones, people he knew, and then forcing his way into their homes, allegedly assaulting Roger and raping the 84-year-old woman. Now Chandler will have 60 years behind bars. But Roger says it's a sentence that came 4 years too late.
Yes, this is justice. It's justice a bit late in that someone else had to be hurt, but yes, it's justice.
But now that Chandler is behind bars for good, Roger's life is a lot different.
Go back to enjoying my retirement.
Something not possible while Chandler was out roaming the streets.
The world is a little brighter today, and the streets of Johnston are a little safer.
A jury found Chandler guilty on 4 counts: first-degree burglary and strong-arm robbery, criminal sexual assault, and kidnapping. He's not eligible for parole until he serves at least 51 years.
If you've ever met anybody from the great Northwest, they'll tell you, Colin, we don't have this kind of stuff going on up there. No, everybody gets along up there, Colin. They're very, very smug about that. And when I show them examples of how all sorts of bad things happen in Tacoma, Seattle, Portland, well, they don't have much to say after that. So here's another case. Another case of some very, very nasty black on old person violence. 62-year-old man. This guy was out walking his dog. This other guy came up behind, just punched him in the face, knocked part of his ear off. Not much to it other than that, other than the number of people now that are saying that somehow white people are deserving it. Those are the same kind of people who are always asking people like these old folks when they get raped and robbed and assaulted and murdered. They want to know, what did those old folks do to get that black kid angry?